All right, let me share my screen real quick. Let's get started for today. All right, so today we're going to be going over key 5. This is lecture 8. So we're still talking about the keys of a visionary business. This is key 5, which is organizing the enterprise. And again, the ultimate goal is to transform the world by doing what you love to do. And this is just a review of the first 4 keys: purpose, imagine your ideal life, discover your higher purpose. Key 2 is problem solving or problem recognition, getting to that innovative solution. Then you have self-diagnosis and finding the opportunity. And 5, we are at organizing the enterprise. So we will look at what's the best formation for your enterprise or for your idea. And when we say formation, we just mean whether it's an LLC, C Corp, S Corp, social, sole proprietorship, and we'll go over the benefits of each of those today. So just start out with the quotes. One key issue that every entrepreneur must address at the onset of a new venture is the legal form the enterprise will adopt. So now we get into the legality. If you remember the pestle analysis, the L will stand for the legal components. So just a quote from Dr. Henry McCoy, used to teach in the School of Business. He's now on a leave with the Biden administration, and he's doing something with entrepreneurship for the country. But he said, paying a lawyer and accountant a little money now can save you a lot of money later. So being able to get that lawyer up front, get that accountant or that banker can save you a lot of money in the long run. Determining the right legal form. An organization can be a sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, or a limited liability company, which is an LLC, or a nonprofit, which is a 501c3. Nonprofit is usually a 501c3. Number 2, the decision is driven chiefly by the objectives of the entrepreneur and the firm's investors. Taxation and legal liabilities also play a part. So depending on which form you choose, you'll be taxed accordingly. So they all have different nuances as far as taxation is concerned. The choice is made difficult by the trade-offs. And lastly, to get the most favorable tax treatment, a business must often give up some protection from liability and some flexibility, or both. So sole proprietorships, here are some of the benefits of this form. So it's simple to organize. Usually you're a mom and pop, you start in a barbershop, something like that, you'd be a sole proprietorship. Restaurants, 1 level of taxation to owner's personal tax. So you take the liability there. It's simple to dissolve. Key disadvantages: full liability of the owner. So that means you're responsible for if anything goes wrong as far as taxes. Cannot raise outside equity capital. Hard to attract top employees who may want to share in ownership, and exist only as long as owner is alive. So with the corporation, it could live for decades and decades after the founder or the owner. But a sole proprietorship is dissolved once that sole proprietor dies, unless it's passed on to a family member. Tips for starting a sole proprietorship. 1, keep your household and business finances separate. You can do this by setting up a separate bank account for your business. Use Quicken or computer spreadsheet like Excel to keep track of your expenses. If you run the business under a name other than your own, you may need to file a fictitious name or doing business names called a DBA certificate in the city where your business is located. And make sure the name is not already taken by another business. And lastly, most US states prohibit the use of words corporation, corp, incorporated, and even company and co after the business name if it's not incorporated. General partnership is like a marriage. 2 people come together, or 2 or more. So the benefits: you can bring in additional talent. You have additional pool of resources and expertise, which also adds to personal capital. Second, one level of taxation directly to partners' personal tax return. And some of the disadvantages are full liability of the partners. Multiple partners in the process can kind of slow up the decision making. You might have some disagreements and you might have to work those things out. Also, capital limited to the pockets of the partners and their ability to borrow. So those are some of the disadvantages. You have the limited partnership. So it's like the marriage between LLC and partnership. You get limited partnership. So the benefits here is a hybrid limited liability, technical managers and investors. And it's also one level of taxation. Disadvantage is very complex to set up because you have the limited liability side and you have the partnership where two or more people. So it can get complex for setup and for profit sharing. You have a C Corp. So C Corp is basically a corporation and their benefits, they're capable of attracting equity capital through share and ownership. So stock sales, shared stock, preferred form of venture capitalists. So venture capitalists love the C Corps. Able to deduct many benefit payments to employees, and shareholders enjoy the limited liability, just as a LLC is. And some of the disadvantages is complex and costly to set up as well. Income is subject to double taxation. So not only will you be taxed on the business side, but you could be taxed on your personal side as well, which is the double taxation piece. And lastly, scrutinized by the public because they're going to be highly involved in your enterprise. S Corp is similar to a C Corp, despite just some of the differences in the taxation. So like a proprietorship and partnership subject to only one level of taxation. Shareholders, once again, enjoy limited liability. And the disadvantage is also complex to set up, limited in the number of shareholders. So you only have 35 or fewer, and venture capitalists cannot be shareholders. So a person that invested a large amount of money wouldn't be able to participate as a shareholder. So you want to be careful when you pick your C Corp or your S Corp. To qualify for S corporation status, have only one class of stock, be a domestic corporation, so it has to be owned wholly by U.S. citizens, have 35 or fewer stockholders, like we just discussed, derive no more than 25% of revenues from passive sources, such as interest, dividends, rents, and royalties, and lastly, have only individuals, estates, and certain trusts as shareholders, i.e. no corporations or no strategic partnerships will be allowed to be shareholders. Then you have an LLC, which is really popular among people starting businesses. The benefits is simple to operate in a corporation. So if you are seeking a corporation and you want to do baby steps, you'll probably do the LLC. Limited liability, it's like an S Corp, except infinite number of possible members. And it also can distribute profits in ways disproportionate from ownership stake. And the one disadvantage is cannot attract outside equity or capital. So you can see the LLC is probably the most popular because it has the least disadvantage or disadvantages that could possibly happen when you're running or operating an LLC. And you have a 501c3, like I mentioned, it is synonymous with the nonprofit corporation. So whenever you hear 501c, you're talking about churches, schools, nonprofit organizations. So the key benefits here is that you get a lot of exemption and deduction and little tax breaks. Eligibility for public and private grants. So you can capture value by writing grants and getting donations. Formal structure, and then there's limited liability as well. The disadvantage is cost, paperwork. You have to have all your I's dotted and T's crossed for the government, and then share control, and also high scrutiny by the public because you're operating in a social space and you're there to do community-based, mission-driven type of work. All right, we have a couple more slides here. Let's see. All right. So other attempts at new forms of business, for-profits with social mission. So one thing I teach in my social entrepreneurship course is that you can have a social entrepreneurship endeavor, or you can have a social enterprise, and it can still be for-profit. So all social enterprises do not have to be nonprofit. So in this situation, you have low profit limited liability company, L3C, for-profit business with socially uh, driven mission. So it's recognized in 8 states and 2 federal jurisdictions, adopted in NC in 2010, abolished in January 2014. So hopefully we can get that back. IRS has not ruled on legitimacy yet. So they're trying to, it's up in the air how legitimate it is. For benefit corporations, B Corp. So a B Corp is a social and environmental certification rating, like Better Business Bureau. It's authorized in 30 states, including the capital of Washington, D.C. More of a marketing benefit than tax benefit. So there is a benefit there and some loopholes, but it's more on the marketing side. And it's not recognized by the IRS. So that could be disadvantageous or advantageous depending on the context of the corporation. So the key takeaways this week: one, consider the likely evolution of your business before selecting a particular form of organization. So you want to think about, say, 10 to 15 years down the road, or maybe 5 to 10. Think about how your business will evolve, what it will turn into, and what that would look like, and that will help you, it will inform your decision on what type of formation your business will be. And lastly, consult with a qualified tax attorney. Talk to lawyers, talk to accountants, talk to bankers, or talk to, all three before making this important choice. Just get some advice, get a consensus, and go out and do your research, do your due diligence before forming your business. It's easier to form the right business than to go back, just as Dr. McCoy was saying earlier in the presentation. So that concludes the presentation for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me at the best way or the most convenient way for you. And I'll see you the next lecture. Have a good day.